Hello, I'm Christian from Human Risk, and if you're in the business of making unethical decisions, then this is the video for you. I'm going to give you 5 tips as to how you can maximize the impact of that unethical decision that you've taken. And for the purposes of illustration, I'm going to pretend that we are running a ferry company. Maybe we want to fire a quarter of our staff, so say 800 people in one go. How could we go about doing that to be as unethical as possible? Well, the first thing that we're going to want to do is to plan this exercise properly. And a key piece of planning is that we need to make sure that we've been very, very vocal about our sense of corporate social responsibility. Not only should we talk about it, we should produce things like this, a very clear document that shows the ethical standards to which you will not be held. Second thing is to take a good look at the law, both the letter and the spirit of the law. The spirit of the law is important because we're going to ignore that completely. We don't have to concern ourselves with that. In fact, that's a distraction that people with little experience in this space often get drawn into. You want to focus on the letter of the law and make absolutely certain that if you're doing things, that you are crossing the line there and not within the spirit of the law. So, as a hypothetical example, if there was a requirement to consult with staff before making that number redundant, you want to ignore that in its entirety. Want to send a very clear signal that this is something you think doesn't apply to you. You are quite literally above the law. And once you've got those planning phases out of the way, you need to get into the phase of actioning. And here it's really important to think about the publicity that you're going to want to generate from your unethical business decision. First thing you're going to want to do is to create some viral content for social media. Best way of doing that, we've seen lots of examples in the past, is to have one individual broadcast a message to those affected via a video platform like Team or Zoom. And the reason you want to do that is not only is it incredibly insensitive, but the second thing is it's ready-made to be distributed on social media. If you use that channel, strong likelihood someone will record it and that will get out. You've created the perfect piece of viral content. Really important when you're doing that to make sure that the tone is highly insensitive. You want to make it sound like the person reading the message doesn't care at all about the audience. That will have 2 effects. One, it will really irritate the employees. The second thing is it'll make it much easier to distribute on social media because people will be more outraged. Perfect social media content. But don't forget traditional media, which is the 4th tip. You want to have some visuals so that if the TV cameras are there, they can really capture the full force of what you've done. And so one of the ways to think about that in our ferry example might be that we're going to need some security because we have set out to deliberately irritate and rile our staff that we're making redundant. So let's make sure that we hire security staff that have the paramilitary look. Let's make sure that they are trained in the use of handcuffs, potentially also wearing balaclavas. We really want to make this look dramatic. Now, one of the risks that you run is, of course, that the media can't be there to see this. And the way that you manage that particular risk is you also ensure that you get one of your subcontractors to leak some paperwork, some documentation that illustrates that was your plan. So ideally, an email that potentially outlines the plan for dealing with employee unrest, and it specifically mentions things like handcuff trained. That way, you can ensure that your insensitivity reaches all corners of the media. And then the final and probably most important tip, and this is particularly relevant where you're running a business that is got consumers as customer, is that you inconvenience them as much as possible. Because what you're trying to do here is not just demonstrate that you don't care about your employees, but also send a very clear signal that you also don't care about your customers. So in our ferry example, what you would wanting to do is to cancel your entire schedule at a moment's notice, ideally leaving people stranded in locations and fending for themselves, because that's a critical component. Remember, your CSR principles that we outlined at the beginning will talk about how important your customers are. So really important that you also demonstrate to them that you frankly couldn't care less. Let them fend for themselves and go to your competitors. That is going to rile them up, and they in turn will share their experiences of it on social media. So there you have it, 5 simple tips for making an unethical business decision even worse than you'd originally planned it. Thanks for watching.